I missed that.
There, now it's working. Oh my God. I finally have
really?
YouTube working.
Oh,
good.
Great.
Yay. Okay. Now people have been coming in the chat room going like, okay, there's that guy.
And I've got this tiny matchbox. I'm literally tiny little square.
Yeah, Robert's wondering how we make the screen bigger because we can't really see ourselves.
Like tiny in the top corner of my laptop.
Oh, yeah. Are you a torque? Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to make you see if I can make you bigger.
Steady.
Maybe a side by side. Perhaps.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to do this first. And I'm going to run this over here. Yeah, there we go. So I got you in the same chat room as where I am in. I'm going to run it this way and see what happens. There now, if you have a look in, we have to move this page over to share. And let's see here. Let's see if it works. That should work.
Okay. We're just getting the technology sorted out, you guys. You know, sometimes people like us don't have the largest budgets on the universe.
No, we don't.
We don't have like 5 staff in the back room and a producer sitting behind like a monitor desk, and so it's all very kind of shoestring budget stuff, and you just gotta push the right buttons and things, like a monitor desk, and so it's all very kind of shoestring budget stuff.
Yeah, but while Derek's trying to figure that out, you can tell them why we live in South Africa.
Oh, I'll let them know that if they're hanging out. So why do you live in South Africa? Because you see, my history goes back.
Good.
Whilst if you have it there, Derek, let me know. I can just let them know about that part of my life.
Okay, so a second here. I'm going to move the screen over here. There we go. The screen's moved over. And there we go. We're in. Now that should work by now. No, what are you doing here, buddy? It's not your fault. They are playing the game. Okay, slow down. Okay. Should be working now. There we go. Let's try that out and see if that works. Okay. That's funny.
I told you, nothing works. It stops working with us around.
Crazy vision, man. I'm telling you, this is funny as all heck. We're crazy people. Oh, we're going 3D right now, or 5D. Oh my God, this is a whole. Oh wow, that's funny. Anyways, we're back. We got him back here now. So let's get started. I got you on YouTube now, so I'm gonna see if I can switch it inwards. Okay, my Facebook is down here, and I put for YouTube. Copies. Let's drop this in the stream. The things we do for each other, which I think is wonderful.
Well, it's all about the community now, isn't it? It's about going global. Yeah. Regardless of how small your budget is. Just go global, Derek.
Yeah, you got to go big, or you go big or go home. Well, I'm actually home.
No, just okay. Just stick it out there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try that on the size. Here's there, and that should go here, and we're good. That should.
And I'm up for questions as well, Derek. You know, people often love to ask questions, and
yeah, they're more welcome to ask questions in the chat room. Here we go.
I'm not the kind of guy that gives somebody a philosophical lecture for 2 hours and then just disappears.
Yeah.
Sexual, gone in a puff of smoke.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying right now, it says YouTube's not working. They're saying YouTube keeps dropping people. YouTube isn't working. They keep on saying this. Well, try that, guys. It should be able to do that now. Let's see. Says I am. Yeah, it says I am. So I'm good. It says I'm live. So if you just follow me in the chat room, guys, we'll see what happens. I'm sure it'll kick in. like everybody's saying YouTube's not working, so it's not me. It's I know I'm live because there's people in the YouTube chat room right now or on Facebook and are saying that YouTube is live. So there's six people watching on YouTube. So they're just coming in right now, picking up speed.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get started. And
yes,
they can always follow up with us when it's recorded. So they want to see. No, those are actually late coming in the chat room. Actually, thank you guys for coming join us on YouTube as well as Facebook. And tonight we have Rob Mercury and his wife Mixx. Rob, I do call him. I always say I call him the whiteboard warrior because this man actually is a remote viewer. Okay, he's one of the best in the ongoing predictions. He does predictions. He does. I mean, this guy gives you the details. He tells a story. It's hard to explain what Rob is like. He's amazing. Okay, I will say Mr. Amazing, whichever how you want to say it. But he knows this stuff because he spends hours and hours and hours remote viewing, and probably days remote viewing. And then what him and his wife Mixx, what they do is they sit down and she does all the editing and they record it. And they actually set it all up to let the public know, people like you, our viewers, know what's going on in our future, like what's going on today. Because a lot of people really have no idea. Sure, you're like a lot of people, what they like to do is listen to the mainstream media. That is distraction, folks. And mainstream media is not going to tell you nothing. All they're going to tell you is lies and, what do we call it? Sex, lies, and videotape. What they're really doing here today, we are not talking about sex, lies, and videotape. We're talking about life, love, and forever living. Basically, we are here not as survivors, but we are already surviving. We are living. We're still here. If it wasn't for people like like Rob and a few other people that are actually doing the same kind of work, 107, Trump, many other people that are out there doing their thing, Gene Decode, people like them, they're out there trying to give you support. They're out there trying to give you that hope and faith and trust in God, because we're brought here for one reason, and that is to help each other. What we're here to also give people support, and we need that. We want to give it to them, and they need this. Is very important. So that's why we work for so many years. Whether like Rob's been in the military, he can share with you what his job was. The same with Mixx, she was in the military. So these two here have life experience, having to do on this. Now, I don't know if Rob actually was a remote viewer for the military, but he actually served in the military. Okay, so we have a positive feedback wanting to share with you from a lot of our listeners and viewers. They want to, they're saying, well, how do you know? Well, Rob is going to tell you some things now. If you haven't heard of him, you're going to know about him now. Okay, you're going to hear about Rob, what he's like now. And I also tell people this: refer back to his Rumble pages. He actually did have YouTube before, but for some reason YouTube didn't like what he was doing, and they started, you can't do this, can't do that, and they scratch you out. So basically, you have to look for an alternative pages, whether it's Telegram and Rumble. He does have a Telegram page. Okay, Rob Mercury, well, he can explain all that one too. He has about 3 or 4 pages, and you can actually share, and learn from what he teaches. And he loves to teach people. He's got 10 students that are actually remote viewers as well. He's training them. So this is ongoing, and I'm sure this is absolutely exciting. Rob, I want to ask you this one question. How are your remote viewers? How are they doing? And has there been a bigger change for them to excel their skills since you've been training them?
Yes, absolutely. I do something called sessions, and that's the erudition that occurs because a session can go. There's 2 basics on a session, but session always addresses whatever the person is interested in. And so the people that hang around in my family, especially my veterans in the group, are very, like most of them are empathic, intuitive already, just to start off with. So I've surrounded myself with these very capable and very, very able beings. Like some of them are just phenomenal. And they've just got very strong backbones. And they're spiritually aggressive. They're calm, but there's a saying that I have called being spiritually aggressive. And That's where a spiritual being puts on his uniform and, you know, takes something seriously, does something proper. It's not really, it's not about providing entertainment exactly. What it is to try and let's say put some valuable training and experience, and to share that, so that now if I do a session on them, they might have, you know, it might be something like a Q&A, or it might be, because what we do in session is kind of like it is in fact a clairvoyant setup, and it's like a telepathic application. So we are, and so then, I mean, that's the best way that you can learn something, and then you can also drill a person on how to handle something. There's various phenomena that occur when you're a remote viewer, and the one thing you don't want to do is to say, you know, you don't want to do this or that, or A, B, C, or D, or E, F, or do this but don't do that. You know, there's a way to actually do it. Then that's what I do, and I think that people are happy with what I do, because I have a lot of people that really ask, and I do charge sometimes. You know, that helps me to survive. I do this full time. It's not I don't have a
monetized.
No. Well, there is no money. Yeah. So, and then we do that. We have the Telegram chat. They ask me questions. I do private, you know, calls and things. And then I also have my videos, which you think about a remote viewer. He grabs things out of future time. He grabs future postulates, like, you know, future postulated outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. Really postulated. They already are in the future, because a postulate is something that is existing within the future. It's not in present time. It's just a distance from you. And so you grab those and then you organize them. So I have to organize other people's thoughts, to reach into their thoughts and into what they've postulated, and then take that and then work it out. So I have a lot of clipboards. I'm very old school. I've got piles of clipboards like this. You can see they're everywhere. Here's one next to me.
Yeah, there's lots of
You know,
them.
I've got another one down over there. I've got three or four of them, my whiteboards. And then what I do is I synthesize the data, and then I recheck, and then it's easy to develop. Like I've just recently now put a narrative out. You could call it a narrative if you wanted it to.
Yeah.
But one I just did now, which I did in the middle of the road at 2:00 in the morning, where they were just standing in the middle of the road, because that was the exact time to do it, because I just know, okay, I must do it right now. Then I just did like a 15-minute video of me standing in the middle of the road in the middle of the night, no cars, nothing. And I was giving a schedule out on a global schedule from 2016 to 2030. What we are on the schedule, and we're sitting at 2024. Okay, that's just an example. So then I would deliver that, and then I wait for it to happen, wait for it to come up with mostly Joanna Saban or some kind of, I rely a lot on him, because he is a reliable source, you know, of data. So then I will put something there, and then those remote views will then become predictions. They become predictions as soon as they occur. So it goes click, click, click from the future, click, click towards us, click, 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 and then bang, there it happened. So that's the game that's worth playing, that I find, you know, interesting. And otherwise, it's just boring present time monotony, you know, like you said, the news, live and videotape all the time. And so that's just what I like to do. And I also do it like privately. You know, if I do a session, somebody want me to perhaps do something else. Besides that, I have a number of skill sets. It's not just remote viewing. There's other things that I can do, but that's like for another. I guess it's another conversation.
But you do have a remote viewing team that you're busy training.
Yes.
Two very successful missions. Got good results.
I also like I had a 4-man crew where I did a remote view with all 4 people at once.
You led them on it, yeah.
Yeah, I was there and I led them on it, and we did a remote view of the United States of America from 150,000, about 200,000, you know, feet up. So it was yeah. And so we positioned ourselves all in unison, and we all did an observation on what we got from that. And I was able to see in each person's space. Okay, this guy got a kind of a mirage thing. I said yes, 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 and then he said, oh yeah, yeah, I saw this. I said yes, 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 and then so it was actually 4 of us together, which was an interesting exercise because you actually are sort of dovetailing into each other when you're doing something, which adds a lot more power to the viewing. To the viewing. So there's actually it's a very, very interesting subject. I don't want to talk for too long on that question. You can ask another question if you like, Derek.
No, you're doing fantastic. I just keep on basically, like I said, a lot of our listeners, really, and our viewers today are learning about you, because some of them actually say, I know who he is, or I've seen his work. Like I got some people here in the chat room that are here. And Catherine, she says, hello, Mixx and Rob. She knows of you. And there's other people in the chat room going or saying, or even Anton's here. And he's saying, he's going, greetings. Thank you, Derek. He's to me. Thank you very much. You're most welcome. So yeah, they got other people in the chat room, and they're saying, oh, somebody new. Okay, this is cool. I want to watch this. So they're catching on. They want to learn about, and you know what, here's one thing I want to give some of our viewers a little bit of a heads up or understanding. When a person is a remote viewer, let's explain what a remote viewer is, because a lot of people really don't know what they are. If you can explain that to us for them, Rob, what is a remote viewer?
A remote viewer is actually a clairvoyant. That's really what you are. So you have a skill that you're born with. I mean, it's literally predominantly you're born with it. Some people don't know that they are, and they have a lot of trouble when they're young, and they don't fit in with anybody, and they find like they're with everyone, you're there, but you're still separate from everyone. You know, you have this thing like you feel like you're in 2 places at the same time. They are empathic, intuitive is what clairvoyance is. Clairsentience, clairaudience is being able to hear what people are saying at a distance. Very often, remote viewing is a term coined in the 70s, 80s by Ingo. Ingo Swan coined the term remote viewing, and Adam, I think his surname was Pudolf, and he had a kind of a CIA project where they developed a couple of things, and they got paid some money to, and they went through. It kind of went on like that as a kind of a DARPA type of thing.
Yeah.
But you can't do no DARPA without the skill in the first place. So remote viewing is actually looking at what other people are doing in present time, or what people are doing in the future, because people do things in all sorts of places. You can't change the past, but what you can do is you can put something in present time, or you can put it into in the future when it's going to arrive in present time. So remote viewer will almost do anything. He will assess a situation from a distance, concepts, audio, visual, and various other. It could be any kind of data. It could be future ideas. It could be. I haven't got a list specifically. So then, so you would have, and then you would retrieve that data, and then you would report on it. So a remote viewer will then report, and there's a secretarial function that goes along with remote viewing. You have to keep records of what you do and what you come across, because you are sometimes moving so quickly, like a lightning bolt. You're in, you're out, quick, like that. It just happens very quickly, in, out. Then you're here, then you're there. And in some instances, it'll be very, very slow, because you have to be there, you have to arrive, and you have to sort of maintain your space, because there might be something going on that's almost like fog, where it's obscuring you. It's obscuring you. You're not introverted in it, because you're extrovert. So you actually leave the body. I mean, you have to leave the body, because your attention, it's not the mind that's doing it. Remote viewing doesn't have anything to do it doesn't involve an ability of the mind. It's not a mental application. Some people, pound their fist on the table saying it's a mind thing. It's not a mind thing. It's a spiritual ability that is being used intentionally. And that goes back into very past, in history, you'll find that there's a whole string of clairvoyance and clairsentience and things that does get used in political arenas and like more professional like arenas back in time. And that's why in the Indian community, you see a lot, a lot about that and all sorts of things about that. And in other, especially tribal communities, where they needed wisdom and they needed to know more than what they did know at the time. So they would go to what they called wise men, like the wise guy. There was a very famous clairvoyant that lived in South Africa till about the age of 98 years old. And he was quite famous. And someone like Kim Clement was a South African. He was very famous. And he was clairvoyant as well. And I mean, you can see him right there in his videos. He's literally doing it.
Throwing out predictions, yeah.
And he used the music. The music was an important component to his
I watch a lot of Kim Clement's videos. This guy is phenomenal. He follows a lot of biblical philosophy, and he's guided for what God has taught him or God showed him, and he'll say it with the music in the background. And the music's playing, and he actually just brings it out. And yet he's made predictions, because a lot of his videos that came out were long before we even started the pandemic, or plandemic, I call it. And he was already saying this. He was already predicting this. And same with, for example, Sylvia Brown, who actually is very well known too. And back in 1984, she wrote her book back in 1984, making a statement that the big C was going to hit. A lot of losses of life. She made that prediction back in 84. She mentioned the year it was going to happen, and this was predicted in her book, and yet she died before this even began. So, the thing is that there is a lot, and she's a remote viewer, which I did know her, and she was a fabulous person to get to know. Absolute, sometimes they'll say she was a tough woman to talk to or get to know, but no, she was absolute sweetheart. She was concerned about a lot of people, wanted to work with people and help them out. That was her goal. Her job was, like she said at the beginning, she, like myself, we never wanted the job at the beginning. It was not our interest, because we were both doing something else in our own lives. But we're chosen. A lot of people were chosen specifically for the work. When Rob was born, he was chosen to do this work. When I was young, I was chosen to do whatever work I was supposed to do. So each of us are given a job. We're doing God's work. We're doing the work of life. We're showing people what is going on and what we need to be there for. That's why we are giving you what's called the moral support. But we're also showing you, don't give up your faith or your fate, or a fate, because we have to learn to have faith. And yet there's always going to be people out there that are going to be doubters and go say, well, how do you know? Why do you give people faith? How do why do you do this for them? Why not? This is not a world of selfishness. This is not what we're taught. We're taught to help others, as always. But again, society has to learn by their understanding of it. But the thing is that for example, I mentioned this before, to you, but I remember the movie years and years ago, a couple of years back, were before Men Who Stare at Goats. That was based on remote viewing as well. They put a bit of a spoof to it, but the fact is that it was the same thing. These men in the military were remote viewers, and yet they still have to make a joke out of it. They just somehow couldn't put some seriousness behind it. Say, look, this really works, and yet there's actually a few people have been on other radio programs years before that were also, they talked about themselves being remote viewers. They're not with us today. For example, Art Bell had a few people on his program years ago, back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
that were remote viewers. But anyways, like I mentioned before, this is why we're here, folks, because we're gonna be talking about what's happening now. Okay. The thing is that Rob has been doing this recording with Mixx. He has been using his whiteboard. He'll have it behind himself and he'll start whiteboarding things down. And what I love about this is he puts in a specific either title and a column, and he's talking about, and he's breaking it down to every element you can think of, a specific focal point, and everything is an element. He brings it down to this, 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 and this, and this. But he's showing you what he sees and what it means. So it's not just, well, here's the way it's going to be, and that's it. No, he's not giving you one reason. He's showing you many varieties of it, but he's showing you that it's giving you a direction. So not many remote viewers do that. But this is why Rob is that good at what he does. Okay, let's talk about the first, not before Ultraviolet, the other two videos. The first one you did, the part one, the latest one you've done. What is it that was so important to talk about that specific one? And then we went to Ultraviolet, and the last one we did, the final one you just released yesterday or today, you said on video. Oh, it was yesterday.
The final one I released today. So it's actually, I think altogether you could say it's like a group of 4 videos.
4 videos.
I just wanted people to recognize that, people talk about ascension, they talk about enlightenment, they talk about all these different things, and they want to know, like how things are going to get better or improve or whatever. They're looking for, where's the improvement? How do we get, because I mentioned freedom from and freedom to. And there's a difference between freedom from and freedom to. And with freedom to, there is like if you take the aspects of life, the life has a lot of moving parts in it, and it's a busy thing. And you have something called rudiments. And if you take the layers of the different kinds of oppression or suppression, there's a lot of things that are suppressed on people. So I wanted to, there's a lot of suppression on people that some of it they are very much aware of, some of it they're sort of partially aware of, they might be uncertain, and then there's other parts of it that they haven't had the time to get to actually look at and acknowledge, oh shit, yeah, that is a kind of a suppressive thing on me, right? So you're dealing with okay, let's talk about human experience or something, being human in this world. What does it feel like to be human? What does it feel like to live week after week, month after month? What does it feel like? Does it feel okay? Is it, how am I doing? That sort of thing. One guy sees another guy and says, how am I doing? He looks at him and wonders, So everybody is trying to figure out how to feel better or do better, and have more energy, feel less claustrophobic or less contained, less compressed. So there's compression in life because of these layers. It's like a layer, like a 7-layered cake that is actually impinging on on the spiritual being itself. Because it's not the body that's necessarily being directly impinged upon. I mean, you could do that if you're in the middle of a rugby match and everybody piled on top of you to get the ball. That's literal physical impingement. Or but these days it's mental impingement and spiritual impingement that is quite dramatic. The body's affected by it. The body's you see the stress on the bodies of people. You can actually monitor. It's quite easy to monitor and to recognize, like physical stress from a period of long duration. So, like what I'm coming to with these 3-4 videos, especially with rudiments, and then was showing in the board 1947, spiritual aggression, and all that, a list of all these things that have been released, and all this stuff. We constantly. That's why these what I call the black house have constantly been at war with us for a very long time. They've been at war with us with taxes and inflation and wars. All the stuff, all of the stuff. That stuff does get to us because it's unrelenting. It's always there. So in order to recuperate, we're talking about recuperation now. So people are interested in enlightenment, they're interested in feeling better, they're interested in all these expanding your consciousness and all this kind of stuff. what goes along with that is recognizing the list of things that are in fact suppressive to you. How many things do you think, if you had to list them, from the milk going up to the eggs going up to, all these different things that you have to kind of weather the storm in life. And what that does is if you get too much, if a being has too much pressure on them, like multiple pressures that pile up, then it can, it reduces your space. So your space becomes compressed. It's like your own, space where you feel free to, be lighthearted and do what you want. And, sort of jump on a skateboard and go out on the road, or go for a hike up the mountain whenever you want. Or there's very little that we can do when we want to, like all these restrictions. So that's what I'm working on now with everybody. And so what happens is, if you feel quite what I call solid. The Americans are kind of odd. I don't know if the Canadians are the same, but they tend to say things in reverse. They say that the more solid something is, the better it is, and then the more unsolid it is. I don't know, that they've got a sort of topsy-turvy, but a being's supposed to feel unsolid. It's supposed to feel light, right? Like leaves blowing through a summer wind or summer breeze, or the fog that is sort of trailing, the clouds that are trailing down into, through like a valley and is blowing. You have to have a lightness, like a lightness of being, and that's your own space. So I kind of dealing with what takes space away and how suppression takes space away, even if it's incremental or it's in small parts. If you stack it all up, it amounts to a lot. And so you end up in a condition, because everything's in a condition, right? If you take it like a state of operation of some kind or another, then you would be in a position of no experience. It's like people talk about spiritual universe, talk about this, talk about that, but where is it? I'm not experiencing anything. You know how you I don't get any experience, I don't get any sensations. So it addresses those aspects. I talk about the globe, the world, politics, but at the same time, what I'm really doing is I'm kind of I'm providing some training and some viewpoints that are in fact very pertinent for the people, for those that are interested in them. That's kind of an overview.
One thing I do see, I mean, not everybody has to believe everything that Rob says, but I will say this, folks: you have to really see what he does in his presentation, and you'll have a better understanding. I mean, how he explains it this evening is quite detailed. I mean, like I said before, when he shows you the whiteboard and he gives you the detail, when you look at his page, you see some of the things that he's actually spoken about. You have a better understanding of it, and this is going to help you see what it really is going on. This is the man here that has been making the predictions, and he's been showing people, and he actually will make those predictions happen. And even 2 or 3 years later, and in fact, he's even proven to people, he'll say, I said this 3 years ago, and all of a sudden here someone else is mentioning it now, and you say, see, you already made that prediction because of his remote viewing. It's even it's almost word for word, because some things you've actually said word for word, and then all of a sudden they're on TV going like, well, we're talking about this and so and so, and Rob's going, I just said that 3 years ago.
Yeah, there was actually a case where there's so many examples. I have a whiteboard here that's just remote views that ended up as predictions.
Yeah.
Like in other words, when something occurs, it then becomes a prediction, because you don't know yet specifically. You've remote viewed it.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the stuff that is provable, that's fact checkable. See, it's very, very key for all of those people listening here. It's very, very key that if you're a remote viewer, if people make claims and they're full of bravado and everything, well, you know what, they can have as much all the ego on the planet that they want, but they must do proof of prediction. They must do an accuracy board, do the date, do the time stamp. It must be intentional before that, before it occurs. So you put it out there as an actual remote view, and then when it occurs, you say, right, I said that 3 weeks ago, or I said that a month and a half ago, or last year, or I predicted that last year for this year. If they can't do that, if they're not involved in doing the secretarial side. Remember I spoke about the secretarial side? There's a lot of secretarial work, and it's a lot of times, dates, and things. And like I'm sit with Mixx and I'm saying I'm still waiting for this to occur. Like now, this thing that I just put out, this last video, I'm waiting for that schedule to come around, because that is the 30,000-foot viewpoint of planet Earth, the American project, the global project with China, with Red Dragon. It's all beginning to dovetail into one picture, and the most basic thing out of all of the machinery that's moving is that 2016 to 2030 schedule, which is something that actually governs over the Black House. They have to stick to this schedule, and all we've done with Trump and putting him in and Hillary not getting in and this around and all this stuff happening is it's caused a complete fuck up when it's come to their schedule. They have to stick to their schedule because they're such a massive $1 trillion monster that they have to maintain control. So it's all about control, but something like that. So that would just be an example. And then with veterans, I predicted some stuff with veterans, releasing literature at the end of July, and then that occurred. 107 released his movie at the very, very end of July or the 1st of August, and that was Bloody Hill. Then the movie came out, but the point of Bloody Hill rooted you to the guy who was busy hosting the movie that we all watched. And then on there, there was a guy who had this website called Stop Hate, stophate.com. And on that website that was featured with the movie as it was released, in that release of that website was all of the letters, the handwritten letters, like 20 or 30 of them, actually more like 30 letters of all the guys who were locked up in the J6 event. And most of them are all veterans. Like most of them are veterans, like 3/4 of them. And so they were writing to their families and writing to, the senators and the congressmen, what the fuck's going on, letter, writing there, why am I sitting here? What have I done?
The public trying to get their stories out.
Yeah, trying to get their stories out. So this was key. And I didn't even know about that until that stophate.com website came out. So that's like factual evidence of proof of prediction. And there was a book that was published, a nice big thick book that was published. I have to try and remember the name of it. Called War of Deceit or something of deceit. I have it on my laptop. I've got to look at it. And that book came out on the 2nd of August, which is a big thick book of all the stories of the military guys, that all these ex-veterans who wrote. The whole book is full of all of their information about how they got bullshitted when they went over to Iraq and Iran and did the Gulf Wars and Afghanistan and all those projects that went out.
And that you predicted in 22 years ago, in 2021.
Yeah, it was about 6 months before, or was it longer than that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was I think it was on Black Swan 2.
Black Swan 2.
It was on Black Swan 2, I said there's literatures that come out. So, that's just examples of.
Do you remember? I'm not sure if you actually seen the video. Someone did a documentary. This is a very old documentary. It was taken back in the 30s or 40s, and it related to the World War I veterans. They came home and they were promised veterans money, and then apparently the government never gave it to them. President never gave it to them. Whoever was in government at the time. Right. He refused to give them money, so they protested to receive their money that were promised. That's the reason why they joined. And so basically they were on the White House grounds, camping there, waiting for their monies. So what did the president do? He didn't actually pay them. He decided to attack them by actually bringing in another group of military that are already in active duty and attacking the veterans on the site. So basically there was gunshots. They were shooting and killing their own people in the Civil War, and that happened. Now, why was it not shared to the public, or to carry on? Like basically, how come people are not remembering that story? Because the mainstream media decided to cover it up because it was a shame. Well, number one, the reason why they're covering it up because every president besides Trump, but every other president so far has screwed every veteran that's ever come home. Because not one veteran really has had a bonus or a home, a true home, um, given to them that they were promised, or even financial support, because most of our veterans now today, folks, are some of them are on the street homeless, because that should not be. They fought for your freedom, and including every veteran across the land. Even here in Canada, we have the same problem here. Our veterans here in Canada are having the same problem. They are not getting financial coverage as they're supposed to, and yet they're willing to. The government's is willing to hand out billions of dollars to other countries for weapons that we're not at war with, and yet they want to hand the money over to them. Whatever happened to our poor, our homeless, and our veterans? And and every time you ask the question, the government totally avoids the answer. They'll change it to another subject.
Yes, yes. Well, it's actually in spiritual aggression versus ideological infrastructure. I wanted to give them now. You have the word. What we are dealing with this truth movement is we're dealing with the fabrication of America, of well, it's not just America, of the Western world. You're dealing with the fabrication of something that got fabricated, this ideological infrastructure. If you Google the word, it explains to you what it really is. And it's actually the beliefs, ideas, mores, the principles, the methods of survival, the policy, political, all these different things, all the stuff that makes Canada, Canada, and America, well, everything else, Australia, these sort of Western societies, including Europe. And that's an ideological infrastructure. And that is what is used in the end with the church, everything is thrown in.
Yeah.
And it's quite well packaged. And that is what you plot along with. And that's what they use to manipulate us with. It's everything put together. And that is all has been engineered by, you could say, for example, like by industrial psychologists or MK Ultra people who have worked out how to make life, how to put something together that doesn't quite make any sense, not based on all these human urges and everything, and they're kind of packaged. Every country has an ideological infrastructure. And that is the problem, that's why you've got sleeping people. What are sleeping people? Those are the people that have been anesthetized by the ideological infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
They might have gotten caught in religion and fallen asleep thinking that God was going to fix everything and they just have to sit back and watch TV. Or maybe they went to the military and fought wars thinking that America's freedom is hanging in the balance when it never was. Or maybe they ended up in Vietnam and became a heroin addict. Most of, I think 3/4 of the people that are running around Vietnam are on heroin. So, maybe it's
maybe it's working now.
Maybe it's working. I've just received notifications. Is it working? There's some technical.
Something asked us if we want to do a different screen views.
It's doing good so far. We're YouTube live and as well as Facebook, so we're doing great. Yeah.
We just sorry.
Yeah, it was AI Skype thing asking me if I want to change settings or something. It's fine.
We thought it was trying to do something, but it maybe just.
What Skype likes to do is hesitate sometimes. If they even themselves is actually owned by Mac by we already know who it is.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. We get caught up in we're obligated to use some of these programs. I can hardly wait for us to basically walk away from other people that are involved in corruption, and we actually will have our own choice of tools that we can use for communication, viewing, even all rights as we are how we're living and surviving. I guess let's put it this way: some of us actually know how to survive, others don't, and they are seeking people like you and I. They'll say, "What's next? What can we do? What's next? What should we do? What's next? What should we prepare for?" Those are the main 3 questions that people will always ask. Everything's a win-win, not just a win-win, because and also I know you mentioned earlier they're saying, okay, everything's in a set in a stage, a timing where everybody, people keep on saying, how come Trump's not done this? Everything should have gone through and da 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 da. But you know what? If he was in such a hurry, if we wanted him to hurry up and get this thing over and done with, we would be in a civil war right now. The public would not agree with what has happened, because they would not believe the truth of what he would try to expose. So he wants you to see the exposure of the truth.
Yes. Let me just quickly jump in here. Basically, Trump is just part of the machinery that is required to disintegrate,
Yes.
to combat, to go to war with America's ideological infrastructure. And because America is so powerful and so big, it influences everybody in the Western world. It sets the tempo. Who sets the tempo?
Mm-hmm.
America sets the tempo. So they have to break that down. They have to sort of pour hydrochloric acid on a democratic ideological infrastructure, to break it apart, to make it disintegrate, so people reject it. The most dangerous people there are in the world at the moment are Americans, because the sleepers, they are dangerous. Stupid people are very, very dangerous. And we can all see it. The button by mistake, he drops like the bag of hand grenades, stupidity and incompetence. And then obviously there's the other part of it was, we know people are evil, but the people who are evil have trained people to be stupid and incompetent and idiots, and useful idiots at that. And so if the American public do not support change, if they do not rise off, because you must think about America, that there's no real emergency there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, they kind of got cheap gas usually, and they have everything they need. And so it's, you get the trip, like life is not like a huge, I mean, I don't think there's a foreign aircraft with an actual, flag from Germany or Japan or Israel, or I don't know, a German aeroplane, a Nazi. There's never been a foreign plane that's flown over America and dropped bombs on America. It's just never happened.
No,
it's never happened. Never. I mean, the actual continent of North America itself has never had an enemy aircraft fly over it and drop bombs and then fly home saying, we just bombed like a small part of LA or something. It's just never happened. So as much as they think they know about war, that I'm talking about the society now. I'm not talking about the Marines that hop onto aircraft carriers and go sailing across the ocean and do something up there. That's different. I'm talking about the general population, society. They've never seen an invasion or a bombing or
war.
The only bombs that they ever had, or was the Oklahoma City. It was their own government doing it. It was actually all the intelligence agencies put together. It actually isn't just the CIA. In the 9/11 Oklahoma bombing, these kinds of things, all the intelligence agencies actually kind of band together. The Israelis, MI6, CIA, and they're all joined together, and they sort of pull it off as a project. That's why there isn't one intelligence agency that will end up snitching on another. Like like NSA says, we know who did it, or it was the Israeli. No, it wasn't the Israeli. It was the British that did it. Secret Service type people. So so that's just something I wanted to mention about ideological infrastructure. It has to be broken up. You have to throw it in the bin. They've got to throw away what they think they know, and look to see if they know that or not.
Yeah, your picture dropped. We lost you in the video.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. It did drop indeed. Next, how do I make it go on?
Let me try something here.
Let's see if you just
this. Try that.
Yeah. Is that on?
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, it's just better to have a two-way conversation. So I won't give long answers. I'll give much shorter answers.
Yeah, no, it's great. No, I like what you're explaining, because a lot of our listeners and viewers don't know this, and so it gives them a better understanding of it, because this is what's going on. And like I said before, everyone is thinking that Trump is the answer for everything. Well, it's not specifically like you said. It's not about him. And here's what most people don't realize: he didn't come in because he had to be there. He went there because he represents all of us. He's not just as he's also there for everyone. Like I know very well that he's actually trying to do the same thing for this country. Not Trudeau. Trudeau has nothing to do with this place. But Trump has been trying, or not just Trump, but the people that are helping to lead with him, for him, beside him, they're helping us here, including Mexico, Australia, and a few other
Yes.
countries. They're trying to give us, that little nudge, like, don't worry, don't fret. You're just being shown what you need to see. Listen to the movie, follow the movie, just watch it and pay attention. But don't believe everything you see on TV, because the TV itself is the distraction away from our movie. So this is where I have to tell people, don't watch the movie you see on the television. Watch the movie where you are here. This is the people like you and I. We are sharing with you, our listeners and viewers, what's going on, that what you think you see, you don't see. They're just representatives. For example, today when they mentioned already that Trump was indicted, and I'm going like, yeah, right. Like that's just there's a reason why they saying he is, but people need to understand Trump is still the president. FBI cannot indict a president. Never can, never can. Plus, he's also the commander in chief. FBI can't they can't come near him. They're just a corporation. They're nothing. Okay, because he's under the military. If this is correct.
Yes, well, the thing is that, I mean, if he does get, let's say, arrested, that's great because Trump is the person that everybody needs to throw mud pies at. He's running inside around saying, I'm the target, I'm the target, I'm the target. See, making a big noise, blowing, he's like a recalcitrant, president who refuses to obey anyone or anything. He's very self-determined.
Exactly.
But that's what that's his job. Trump's job is, you could call it psychology because that's all that people understand, really. We know what psychology means. What he's trying to do is get them to undo it, to be like him, to be like him, to be as he is. Don't follow don't obey, don't let people push you around, blah, blah, blah. So everyone's throwing mud pies at him. And if he gets arrested, it's just going to make him stronger. You see,
We've got a guy here. We have a fellow here. His name is Chris Guy. Chris Guy he's been arrested 28 times. Okay. And Chris actually has been fighting for us, and he actually does a lot of whistleblowing, and he's been doing it. He's been part of the Freedom Convoys. Before that, this man's been involved around it for such a long, long time. Now, they tried to even arrest him and put him behind bars to keep him from wanting to be, because what Chris Guy decided to do, he wanted to be the next mayor of Ontario, Toronto, Ontario. So he's actually is right now doing his candidacy as being the next mayor. Now, what he's doing is he's taking everything away that Trudeau has done, is to exploit us and to tell us what we can or cannot do. So this is why Chris Guy is placed there. But so when Chris Guy put in his nomination as being the next mayor, next thing you know, the police showed up and had him arrested and saying that he had weapons and that he was trying to kill people and kill a cop, and he was violent, and they tried to get him arrested. And apparently he had this charge for almost 3 years. And then yesterday, he actually let everybody know that when he went to court, all those charges were thrown out of court because there's no proof that he threatened anyone's life. None. But this is how corruption had done itself.
Yeah, they do. But let's get into a bit of a Q&A, some short answers and questions. What do you say that we do some questions?
Let's go for it. Now, Magoo's in the chat room too, by the way. Magoo says hello.
Oh, Magoo's in the chat room. Okay, I know Anton's there.
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's some of my guys, my veterans.
Main people that are in the chats. Okay. Okay, we gotta have now. Keith actually says there's a fellow by the name of MacArthur. Yeah, he's the one. Apparently, he said he ordered the attack on the vets on World War One. I remember. Okay, now let's talk about 1947.
Yes.
Now, what was so important about 1947 that you feel that others need to know that's so vitally important? We can break it down to a short
That's
point.
simple. It's very easy, Derek. I'll just break it down for you. Basically, the United Nations, formed in 1949. The NATO formed in 1945, which is just prior, that's after the Second World War, but it got its machinery in place. NATO really is a kind of a Nazi, like some Nazis went to NASA, well, some Nazis went to Interpol. So a lot of them hid there. And I mean, I've known this from, I kind of have a back history that goes further back in time than this lifetime. So not that that's means I'm special. It doesn't. It's life's just as tough for me as it is for all of you. It doesn't mean my life is easier because of that. I'm not some big guru guy because of that fact. I was just you can call you. I could say that I'm lucky, but I could also say that I'm respected. So although I'm lucky, I'm a lucky person. Maybe I'm also a very respected person. So I got help. Everybody needs help in order to rehabilitate like parts of their existence and their abilities and stuff. So I'm linking it to that 1947. But basically, and that's where the military Project Mockingbird, the intentional infiltration of the press occurred. The CIA was formed in 1947 in order to curtail humanity, the Western world, the whole of the Western world had to be controlled from that point onwards. They didn't want to slip, to lose their grasp after the Second World War with their military industrial, complex DARPA development and all, because they were making so much money producing all this military equipment. And of course, the rest of Europe was carpet bombed to shit. The cities were in ruins. London was bombed and bombed and bombed, and Germany and France and Poland, and it was just destruction everywhere. And who were the people that didn't get bombed? Who were the people that didn't get invaded? Who were the people that didn't really have that happen? Was the Americans. So it was the plot after the Second World War for America to say, well, don't worry, we'll lend you the money. The Fed will lend you the money. You guys need loans to rebuild your cities, need loans to rebuild your countries. Hey, it's fine. We'll lend you the money. Of course, you'll pay us back with interest, but we'll lend it to you. Build your cities back. You need money or whatever. So it was kind of pre-planned. It's kind of sad when my grandfather flew a Spitfire in the Second World War. I mean, he literally, when he did die, he lived, after he retired from all of that, he lived for 40 years with shrapnel in his back.
Ouch.
Because a German was shooting him from behind in his Spitfire, and the glass was actually shattering, and it went into his skin. And there were certain parts of shrapnel that they couldn't take out because it was too deep. It went in too deep, but what happens often with shrapnel, it's interesting, is that the body grows something around it, and it just basically keeps it, kind of tumiscent internally. That's it. It kind of binds to it and didn't hold. But there's small pieces, it's not big pieces, small pieces of shrapnel. So I mean, he lived, for the rest of his life like that. But it's just sad that the Second World War was engineered. It was also funded by Wall Street, actually, to get Hitler, the Bank of England. So, I mean, it was funded by the Western world, the Bush's great-grandfather with the steel mill, providing steel. They needed diesel. They needed steel. They needed this. They needed that. They needed a whole lot of resources.
Well, yeah. Henry Ford also was one of the major supplier of the vehicles for the Germans to make their tanks to fight the United States. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so it was a long line of very powerful corporations that literally had to service America. There's lots of them, actually quite well known. Helped to build the aircraft, the engines of those airplanes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what we talk about 1947. The other things that occurred in 1947 was that some documents got stolen from the United States Air Force. In those days, it was the Air Force that was quite prominent, and then later on, it switched over to the Navy. So the United States Navy were the people that were very much involved in Central Intelligence, like naval, military intelligence. It then switched from the Air Force to the Navy. And the reason why it switched from the Air Force to the Navy was because the Navy were more organized and they had more resources with the shipping and the missiles, and they just had a lot more equipment, and they were much bigger, like, division of the military. So there was a safe where paperwork was kept, quite a thick wad of paperwork, very precious stuff that was kept, the intelligence. And I was in the Second World War. I was a photographer, and actually I think there was some pictures that my group came up with, Telegram group, long ago. Actually, it's long ago, of aerial photographers, because we would photograph from an aeroplane, right? So aerial photography, and then the cameras you had to carry on, all the heavy bags and everything you had to carry. This huge. It had braces on it, and it locked itself in the undercarriage of the aeroplane, and you'd open up something and start shooting, to take photographs of landscapes and buildings and all sorts of movements on the ground. Anyway, so they were actually digging in the right area to try and see if they could find. That was like my previous life. Okay, fine, okay. So, but the thing is that I ended up flying a lot because I was off and on airplanes all the time. And I had a full career in the military, my whole lifetime. I got educated by them. I learned to read and write. I didn't know how to read and write before I went there. They'd literally schooled you up to like what you could call standard, like a standard 8 education, which is not grade 10. Is a grade 10, like up to about a grade 10 level, and then from then you go directly into like an apprenticeship role. So you would then still study, but then start working, but in the military as something. So I did photography because I love light and imagery, and I'm very tactile, creative, like artistic person. I studied graphic design this this lifetime. I mean, now as I am, and I love art, and I love graphic design. I know all about all that stuff that goes along with it. Anyhow, so that creative side of me and that interest, I went straight there. I didn't want to do no machine gun, work or something stupid like it'll fly or anything. I just wanted to do that. And I ended up becoming quite popular because the person who takes the photographs is the person who has the photographs, who knows what's on them.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So every time that something had to be photographed, and some of the stuff I did was very, very dangerous because you're flying at night and you're waiting for the sun to rise by the time you get to that destination, right? So you a lot of the times we'd leave at night and fly for 3 or 4 or 5 hours just to get where we needed to go, and then sunrise would come, and then you'd have to know the angle of the sun. The plane would have to be in the right position, because the angle of the sun is coming here and the shadows are going to fall this way. So it's quite complex. You've got to take how long it takes you to fly there, and as the sun is a certain like height in the sky, you've got to shoot that imagery where you can get a proper image, and then you've got to turn around and get the F out of there. Okay, so some of it's quite tricky. We didn't have drones in those days. We didn't have satellites. There was no satellite. There was none of that fancy stuff. There was nothing like that. We used to dub in our shoes. We used to stuff out like in a pipe with tobacco. You smoke a pipe. That's the kind of stuff.
I mean, if you look at a lot of these other photographers that done the same thing, no matter where they went, they had photographers out in Vietnam, and they didn't carry a gun. They had other people carry guns for them while they're taking pictures.
Yes, exactly.
And they stood next to someone else who just finished getting shot, and they'll take a picture of that person who just finished getting shot. And then they'll say, okay, here, we'll put this in the news and send this to this guy here, so and so, we'll helicopter it out. That's what they did. And if they didn't helicopter it out, they would fly it out. No matter what it is, they're going to make sure they get some sort of picture out there to let the people know what's going on across the world. There's also I know what you mean by actually doing your past life, because myself, actually, my last life, I know very well that I mentioned before that I was actually a military soldier, was a British soldier. I was infantry, and I was age 23, and my first name was Richard. I remember that name. I was on laying down, shooting down the Germans, and the Germans were behind all these wagons full of hay, and they're shooting it back up at us. No, I'm not sure whether we were in England or in France or another country, but I remember that. But I remember getting the straight bullet in my chest. I remember lifting out of my body, and that was it. But when I was born in this life, my father was in the military, and yet my father said to me, I want you to get you to join the military when you reach a certain age. I said, Pop, no, been there, done that. I'm not going to repeat that again. I think what it was, I don't want to get shot again. So
Yeah, that sounds. I can relate to that.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that kind of thing.
Well, the crazy part of it is I actually have a cell memory scar on my chest. It's a big white dot where I got shot, and it was there on my chest when I was born. So it never went away. It stayed there because it's called a cell memory scar. So it stays with you.
Yes,
You bring it back with you. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just like to say, Jake, often what you do get is you can notice it on your own body as well as others out there that are listening, is that you can find that you have a birthmark. And the birthmark is often, not always, but in some cases, an injury from another lifetime that is so embedded in what in the situation you were in. Then you die with that, and then of course you come back, or if it was, and then you end up with this birthmark in the exact same position.
Yeah, because the event was so traumatic that you actually carry it with you, even though you can't remember it. The being remembers it. Yeah,
that's true. And my daughter is the same way. She's got a big, huge birthmark on her right arm, and it's large. And yet I knew very well that she was not a female; she was a male. She's in this life, she's a very passive person. She doesn't want to argue or sort of thing. She's the kind of person like, no, I'm not gonna argue with you. And yet I think her arm got blown off, and I think she was part of the military at the time because she lost this part of her arm right here. It was really huge. I've seen people with birthmarks on their face. I mean, major bad. So that means you can tell this person must have been in a bomb explosion and took the whole face.
Exactly.
Like, folks, it's not, it's not a birthmark. It's not just a birthmark. These are called cell memory marks. They come with you from your birth life. And there's been proven by many people who actually talked about it. And it's same with like Rob says, he agrees, these things do happen. And I'm sure a lot of people like that out there are looking for birthmarks saying, well, maybe something happened to me. And, I had a birthmark too. Well, hey, check it out. You got a birth. You may have a birthmark on your rear end, and you got shot in the ass. Just to wake you up. That's the reason why I can't sit down or I can't sit still. Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about also the rudiments. You had a title on one of your boards, rudiments. Now, what is the meaning of the word rudiment to yourself? What we call rudimentary, possibly rudimentaries. But your listing of what you rudiment was breaking it down to, I guess, telling the story. Now, I think it's your part 2. Was that part 3 of your video?
Rudiments was the first whiteboard that I did for quite a while. Rudiments. Yeah, first, the kind of first of the last 3. Okay.
So to let our listeners and viewers know, what does the rudiments mean to you, and what does it mean now today?
That was what the 7, the sort of layered cake of duress or pressures upon to be mindful. A rudiment is the most basic. It's the basics of what your constitution and your endowment. It's the performance of your physical constitution, which is structure, right? So that's genetics and your body makeup and the various tolerances that your body can endure. It provides you endurance, stamina, and physical prowess. Your agility, how deft you are. Your fitness, your basic fitness level. That's like so that's physical structure and genetics, and people have different performance levels with their genetics. You'll notice some can and some can't, some will and some won't, this type of thing. And then you have mental sort of acumen, and reaction time is a crucial example of mental health. How fast you are at reacting. Knocks a cup off the table, how fast do you catch that cup? Things like that, like I'll knock a knife off the counter or something, fall down, just snap and grab it like instantly. Mixers see me do that. I once had a friend that knocked a cup off a table, and I grabbed that cup when we were just, talking. That's how. So the thing is that a speed test on how quick you are is actually the mind itself, because the body follows the mind. It is a performance tool to the mind, and the way that it's set, sort of set things in motion. Like some people's minds think in tenths of seconds, right, or tenths of seconds. So if a person is also very slowed up, is that uh, it's then the body will be as slow as what the mind is, the speed of the mind. So those things are, and then there's it's also your sort of analytical ability to synthesize stuff, data, to duplicate it and absorb it. Mind's obviously important in that, and those are rudiments, and part of your rudiments is also how things are defined and the meanings of things. So that would be like how literate you are. If a person doesn't understand concepts or ideas, or doesn't know the meanings of words, then their basic rudiments are not, because they don't know, let's say, like they don't have adequate enough definitions for things in the actual, that are actual, not apparent, not theory, because like string theory is apparent. It's an apparency, for example. String theory is an apparent. You can waddle on about apparencies all you like, but actuality is, this is actual, that's actual, this is actual. So that's part of your rudiments. Then you have the spiritual aspect of you, which is like 99% of you, really, at the end of the day, and that's existence, and it's all things that encompass that emotion, because the brain is not looking to survive, because it's going to die anyway. The brain, it's going to die along with the body, or whatever. It's throwaway. It's like that sort of takeaway hamburger. You don't eat. You eat what you want, and then when you're done with it, then you just go chicken and throw it in the bin. A body's a takeaway kind of proposition. So, but 99% of you is the spiritual being, and everything that the spirit, all that the being has created, to survive as existence is part of your rudiments, because you need to have in the rudiments video, I think I wrote something on the board that freedom is a rudiment to a comm line, is necessary. You need freedom, enough freedom, in order to have a proper communication line, but a proper one. And there's nothing worse than talking to a personality. Meaning someone who's being a personality, but nothing else besides that. It's so plastered on top of them, like this, that there is no, you're not talking to the being, you're talking to a stimulus response machine that has pre-organized answers, set answers to set questions. And so, a being can never be, there's no being that has a personality. Personality is an invention. It's a person. I don't deal with people. I deal with the spiritual being. A person is an invention where you've taken polymorphism. So you've taken nature, the natural world, which is correct. There's nothing wrong with the natural world, but you take the natural world and you fuse it with spiritual beings, and then you have this composite, and that's what a person is. But you wouldn't have people if beings hadn't put themselves together with the natural world. Okay, and then you get something called supernatural. So our supernatural is that union of the natural world and beings. Beings are in everything. They're in everything. Just take it from it's my how I operate and how I'm able to function, because I understand what the physical universe is. I know what it is. I know how it got there. The original universe is also part of our rudiments, because people don't understand the not the significance of this universe, but the basics of it. It's just all about basics. If you know your basics, then you know where you stand. You know what you are. Okay. How will you ever know who you are if you don't know what you are first? If you look at a gradient of understandings, it's required that one should know what one is first before one can decide who one is. Because who you are really is irrelevant. If you think, they have this question, who are you? These like spiritual gurus. I was watching some guy the other day, some British guy with a long beard and a kind of a purple turban on his head. And he was the spiritual, sort of guru guy or something, something like a Sufi guy or something. And he was saying, oh, who are you? And who are you? And do we really know who we are? And people say, I don't know who I am. Well, you don't need to know who you are.
Or they'll also say, who do you think you are?
Yeah. Well, whatever. It's a trick question. It is a trick question, actually.
Who do you think you are? Well,
no, because a being is a beingness. That's why we call ourselves a spiritual being, because we're a beingness. So even a spiritual being is still a beingness. It's still a beingness.
Yeah. So who you are is just who you're being at the time.
At the time.
Yeah.
So who can change 20 times in a day?
Yeah. Just like personalities, they change
time.
like flavors of ice cream.
Big time. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's whatever you're interested in at the time.
So you hold the ice cream in your hand, you think, who do you think you are? Talk to the ice cream. Who do you think you are?
Exactly.
Right? There's the ice cream. Who do you think you are? We don't know the flavor. We want it to be that flavor, but who do you think you are?
Yeah, exactly. That's why someone's upset with somebody, he'll say, who the hell do you think you are? Because it's the who. It's the who. Well, I mean, who was I 5 minutes ago? Well, who was I being 4 hours ago?
Yeah.
Who was I being last lifetime? And what? And how many who's can I be? Well, yeah.
And Rob always says he's not interested in the who you are; it's what you are. That's what counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what you are, and it's that you are. You see.
Here's a word for you guys. There have been last year, a few months or a month ago, about 1 year anniversary plus the year, another month, we had our Freedom Convoy in Ontario. Thousands upon thousands of semis and vehicles drove all the way to Ontario, to Toronto. People protested for their freedom. And the word freedom, okay? There is a fellow out there giving kudos out there. His name is Freedom George, and he would yell, freedom, freedom. And then everyone started doing it. Like he was just saying the word freedom. And he would it became a habit, became ongoing. I guess it went to the point for that whole 2 to 3 weeks they were up there protesting, and then everybody's got dispersed and went home. Now, Freedom George, they decided to protest and carry on in Calgary, Alberta, here in Canada. And they went down the street and they're protesting, and then George said freedom, and then somebody else said freedom. A police officer said to that person on the street, if you say that word freedom one more time, we're going to arrest you. And they took him to jail. Now, why would the police be so afraid of one word, and it scares them? Freedom.
Yeah, well, it's because it's implanting. That's what implanting is. Yeah, actually, basically, it's that's the ideological infrastructure. It's grooming, it's programming, it's social, it's human behavior. It's all that kind of stuff where it goes right from preschool, little kiddies, all the way up into the grown man, and then you get, it's the training and the police that tell you, this guy says that you hit him with a mud pie, So it's constant, because you must remember that the one thing that keeps the world running for the Black House is control. They've got to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose control of the infrastructure that they have, positioned, then we're going to become recalcitrant, and we're going to cause shit, and we like the hooligans. We are the indignatious, what's that movie, like, bastards,
Inglorious Bastards.
Inglorious bastards.
Glorious
that are causing
bastards. Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're causing shit in France. They
Yeah.
cause shit here. They cause shit in Spain. They throw stuff out the windows. They go fucking crazy. They go crazy in Brazil. Like, America's got to start going crazy soon. Just like, meaning crazy as in get mad, get real mad. My life has meaning.
Get on the streets.
Get on the streets, get banners, form a fat crowd. Stick on a mask and some, glasses and a wig just to hide your, leave your cell phone at home. Don't let your cell phone track you wherever you're going. Tell your friends to leave their cell phones at home, because if you're hanging around with them, and they can't see you on camera, you ain't got no cell phone, you're not being tracked.
It's probably the only best time to wear a mask.
Yeah, exactly. And
just beanie thing
cause trouble, make shit.
Oh, you wear a gas mask.
Because it's that make-break point. It's like Swan Seven says, everything's on the line. Everything is on the line. It's everything or nothing. So we know we're not going to lose. And it's good news, actually, what's happening. I mean, people are perishing as a result of it. They are perishing. But the people with the strongest backbones will survive, and go through with it. I don't know what we were talking about. Maybe we just got
freedom.
Freedom. Freedom is more than just to move around and go where you want. I want to go camping in the forest, or I want to drive to, sort of Canada. I want to go to Mexico and suntan. It's more than that. Being able to fly in airplanes and go.
If you ever get a chance one day, my friend, say to grab your whiteboard and put the word freedom on there and see what happens. Remote view that word freedom, see what happens.
Sure. Yeah. I can. And also one thing about me that's worthwhile, I can say, you can put some stock in it, is I don't give rote answers to questions. If somebody asks me something, like Anton asks me, or Gil asks me, or somebody asks me something and I don't know the answer, then I will go from not know to know. Mm-hmm. So I'll do my best to look and see what I find, and then I will say, sometimes I say I have to come back to you tomorrow, or give me an hour.
Yeah, and he says, like, I haven't looked at that before. Let me look at it and I'll come back to you. Yeah. He says flat out, I don't know, I'm going to look.
Because myself, when I looked at the word freedom, and then yet I decided to look at history of it, every generation has been fighting for freedom, no matter if it was military or civil, no matter if it was a relationship or non-relationship, whether you're traveling, whether you're walking, whether you're thinking or not thinking. Everything is freedom of the mind, freedom of thought, freedom of movement. That word is constant. It's a constant word.
That's it. And it's a rudiment.
Yeah.
Freedom is a rudiment to a comm line.
Yeah.
And how many communication lines can you have? I mean, Aborigines used to talk to rocks, plants, rivers. They used to gauge the landscape. They required data. So they needed the physical universe to respond back, to talk back to them. There's so many applications. If you actually start if you start realizing everything, you realize that freedom is a huge amount of freedom is like a rudiment. So you're totally right, Derek. It's way beyond what people give it credit for. I mean, they think, oh, freedom is just political, getting my vote, or paying, or having supplies at the store.
I didn't know the word freedom is racist. I didn't know freedom was monogamous, misogynist. I didn't know the word freedom was having to be gay, lesbian, or not. Whatever the fact is, like they're trying to use that word freedom as a negative, or they don't want us to say. So the thing is that I strongly feel that the people out there, we call corporation, are so afraid of that one particular word, and yet we fought for it, we've lived it, and even someone said we're living in a time capsule, and we're always fighting for our freedom or living for freedom, where our time capsule has always been left behind. Each of us lives in a time capsule. Each of us have lived a time capsule. We've actually save something, put it aside, give it to someone else in the family or friend. That's a time capsule. You're handing over parts of your freedom to that person because you kept it to yourself thinking, what if this gets taken away from me? But if before you leave this world, okay, I'll hand it to somebody else as part of your freedom. Everything you wrote down on a piece of paper is part of your freedom. Every word that you write or writ is freedom, because freedom of speech, freedom of writing. And that has been going on for generations, including right down to the Bible, where again, organizers were kept on telling us, like you said, the Black House, they don't want us to speak, writ, or even have the knowledge. They want us to put the word FEAR on us to say, don't say that word, say this.
Yes, I have something to say there, Derek, is that there's a word called a VIA, V-I-A. Okay, a VIA, a VIA, but the British will say VIA, or you guys have, and Americans have their accents on things. But you have a whole lot of VIAs that get put onto things. So Google is a VIA to sourcing data. Definitions or words, or now we have to go via Google to get this, when we could just walk straight into the library or go straight there and get the actual reference book. Now we have to go via this and via that. So you can see how they put these vias in between the source of something, and the self-determinism of the being that wants to access the direct actual source of it. Now there isn't a source; it's a bit obscured. And Google's, you Google something and you want to know something, and it gives you a whole lot of trash that pops up. All that trash. And
it never actually gives you what you're looking for.
I didn't Google that. I meant this. No, I didn't mean that. I meant that. You see, like you Google Apple, and then it says computers. I didn't ask you for Apple computers. I just asked you for Apple. The thing that you buy to it.
Yeah. Well, same with the airlines. Airlines will say Air Canada via so and so flight.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
when I put the being. They put the spiritual being into vias, into in order to it like curtails, like the speed. I'll tell you something about a rudiment as well. Is that there's some beings that need things to move faster. Like you look at the truth movement, you look at people are suffering from body pains, aches, fatigue, exasperation. They get tired, they get worn out, this whole thing. There's quite a lot of people who joke about it. I've seen a meme about it recently on my group with the veterans put it up. It's very funny. This guy's all sporty and he's got
like a young sailor.
Tight socks, and he's all like ready to go. And he's this young sailor, and he's like, I just joined Telegram. And then like 2 years, that says then, I just joined Telegram. And he's like posing, he's like, and then the little split in half, and on the other side, 2 years later, and this guy's got this like beard,
old
haggard
like
beard,
captain,
and like sailor, all with a pipe sticking in an old trench coat, and he's all 2 years later. So,
he's been on Telegram too long.
Because it's this constant veers, and what happens is the speed. There are some beings that are they function at the crack of a whip. They're very fast, agile, super quick, and some beings, don't mind the pace of things, and they tend to sort of, go down the river easy. And some beings like to do things very fast, and the world everything is engineered to slow it down in order to sort of imprison and put more weight, and it takes 3 times longer to do the same thing. You go
to frustrate the big fast beings that need to operate at a certain speed, so it curtails their abilities to make things happen, because everything is bogged down with all the slowness. They tell you they've got high-tech banks. You stand in a queue with 25 other people at the ATM. They tell you that you can use a petrol card to pay for your stuff, and then it goes offline or online or whatever, and before you'd say, how much is it? $500, and you just hand it through the window and you drive off. You don't need to slip, you don't need anything. There's the pet. I've got petrol in my car, there's the money, thanks, bang, and you're gone. And so people are sitting there screwing around with their cards when you go to the cash out counter, when you buy your groceries, and this guy's screwing around with the card, and then it's the machine and something, and you're waiting there and saying, why is it taking so long? You just go ching, 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 ching with the money, bang, thank you.
in your hand and off you go. So it's slow. You think technology is fast because it's sold to you as a convenience.
No.
It's always a convenience. And then
but the word convenience is what they're using. Oh, it's a convenience. Oh, they'll say, well, let's use the word digital. Okay, digital. Well, digi, it's not what you think it is, folks. That means control. Control how long you do. It's not what you think. And again, control of you, because digital, except for example, if you want to, they want you to, they're thinking they do, if you actually buy your product on your own through the machine and you think it's not, like you mentioned earlier, it's not faster. You're taking your time and you're trying to hurry, but you don't know how to be. You're not. You were never hired as a cashier. You weren't. That's not what your job's supposed to be. Your job's supposed to shop for your groceries, and you have that person you pay that the store's paying the employee to do this for you, to hurry this through, because the machine will do that for you. And the fact is, that's what you said. You drop the cash down, you're done.
Yeah, you're done.
But now it's taking longer because you got to run it through, and the guy's going like, "Come on, guys, what are you doing?" Like,
exactly. This is part of what, and it's just, it's like, come on. I just want to let you know that I've got my laptop to my right, so I can see you quite clearly on my laptop.
We're live streaming YouTube next door to us. That's why he keeps on looking over, because your camera on the Skype isn't activated your video, so he can't actually look at you and speak. He keeps on having to look sideways. So if he's doing that, then you know what he's doing.
But I can see on my other laptop with your headband and the blue background and everything. I can see that.
And a cool microphone.
Yeah, we like the microphone. It's pretty. Yeah, it's sexy. I like it.
It's a hot mic.
It's a hot mic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It lights up. Actually, I bought this mic. It's really, really good. It's good for any computer or any programming. When I bought this one, I mean, I've had other regular common mics. This one here is better because you can control the side sounds. If you want to go direct, you can go direct. If you want people to surround you, you can set setting for that. You can set it for your headset, the whole 9 yards. But this actually, you can set it up for even other colors. It'll actually look like a rainbow if you want it to be. And I thought, no, I like the red.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. When I tell people when you're,
so
you got all these settings on it, so it's actually can be directional, or it can be what do they call the opposite to directional? The other one, the one where it does the whole environment.
Yeah, it plays all the color programs through it. But I like this one red because when you're hot, you're hot.
Yeah, and then if you want a cappuccino, you just push the other button and it pops out.
And what I like about this mic, I just tap the top of it, and it turns it. I can turn the mic off at the top. Let's just tap it, and it turns up the sound off, and then turn it back on. Tap it on top. It's a really, really good mic. It's one of the best ones I've ever had in a long time. You got your common mics, but the common mics you got to mess with the mixers. This one here, it's already the settings already here inside. So it's a better product to work with, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I've used mics for years, all types of mics, even the old ones, like the old 1920s, 30s, fat mics.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But this one here has a nice clear sound to it. And
it does. It sounds tough.
No, it does. It works very well.
I don't sound like I'm actually talking to a bucket. This one actually, you're talking to a mic.
Yeah, exactly.
Down there.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. You're gonna say something.
Well, I was just wondering what the formatting is. Anyone that wants to you can read some questions off, or
I'll go down the list here. There's people in the chat room actually were talking here. Anna's here. Kobe, Magoo. Let's see who else is. Anton, Anna. Let's see. There's more people here. There's Keith, Lisa. Okay, who else is there? There's way more people in here. Lots of people in the chat rooms. I'm going back and forth both chat rooms here.
Okay. Then I'll just keep up.
We're there. Some are responding. Magoo, actually, her response, like she says, "We are being handled. Had enough of that."
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's why I was saying in the rudiments board that you can fight. I mean, how many wars have you fought in, and how many times did we go off to defeat the enemy? And we were fighting for our freedom, and then we never got it. like I said, did you get the freedom did you get the freedom from the war that you fought?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah.
But now we're fighting the real enemy. So now we can really see, we're actually fighting the enemy that there are no flags that have ever really
Well,
fought
yeah,
against
you
us.
did mention in your video, say we're not fighting for any flags. They never flew flags in any war to like you said at the beginning. No other country actually had attacked the United States. They never flew over and bomb. There was no bombing.
No.
Why? Because who bombed? I actually saw the list, the military list where it was always the United States that attacked the country. It was never other countries attacked the United States. The United States really has a lot of, I think their investments was into war than it was actually peace. Even though they want you to convince you, say, well, we're looking for peace. Well, peace means you don't use a freaking gun, right?
Yeah, the world is a huge, big, ironic hot mess, as they say in the Canadians or the Americans. Or the Canadians, they say hot mess.
Hot mess.
Yeah, world's been a bit of a hot mess. Yeah, so.
Yeah, we're always in a hot mess.
Yeah, we're catching up.
We got a politician, one of the so-called pretend leaders is in a hot mess. Okay. Also, what I want to talk about too is let's discuss. I want to use the word black house. Now, who is the black house? Can we actually define who that black house is, or is that just a variety of people that are involved in the black house?
Yeah, sure. Basically, remember I was talking about 1947. You had a question, and I was talking about a big, thick wad of documents that got stolen out of a safe.
Yes.
I was good friends, very close friends with an intelligence officer in the Navy. I was in the Air Force, the British Air Force. He was in the American Navy, and we were flying in something like a Cessna. It looks like a typical kind of sort of troop carrier, Second World War, plane, and we were flying. I was flying to the States, and he was in the plane. I was, in a plane, there were no seats in there. You just had like a basic kind of seat, like you do in a troop carrier type thing, where they just sit on these makeshift small seats that they have there, and then it just has belts hanging down, and that usual type of cargo plane. And it's a long journey anyhow. We were sitting and we were chatting, and that's where I had my kind of first contact relationship with this intelligence officer. And he was the guy that actually stole the paperwork out of the safe, duplicated it, and then put it back directly.
Wow.
So he literally duplicated it, and he had it had to get had to be quite a smooth. So it got stolen, but it got stolen in order to launch something effective from 1947 onwards. But there was something else that and that has to do with the Black House. There was that wad of papers basically was the Black House, the instruments of what they were using, like all of their sort of plans, and it was when people talk about the Illuminati and all that kind of stuff, that was ages ago. Well, that was sort of the sort of Jesuit, what do you call those guys? The Knights Templar type of thing. That was the control mechanisms that came out of the Industrial Revolution in the United Kingdom. The Industrial Revolution were all the industrialists, like the Vanderbilts and the British royals, the Denmark's royalty, and the newspaper chains that came out of the United Kingdom with all those presses. They were able to set up the Oxford Press. So it was dictionaries, it was Bibles, it was books, it was newspapers. And the newspaper chains went all the way through the world. And most of the newspapers that we read today, even like the Washington Post, it's owned by the City of London. They were the core center of news globally. was these newspaper chains, and then they would set up printing presses in different countries. And so we get newspapers that are all run out of the city of London. So that's what that paperwork was. And then also there was more than that on who they were. And they're basically British businessmen. They're not Americans. Okay, first of all, there's no. And it's about 8 of them. It's not exactly 12. But if you include some of their henchmen, they're like senior project managers, in other words, it comes to around about 11, 12. Very small group of British businessmen. And then also there's a story to this world, to this planet. It is. I've just rolled myself a cigarette, so I'm just having a short cigarette break. I like to roll my own cigarettes. Basically, the people that are running, you see, the cabal is a generalization. Globalists. Globalists are the cabal. So if you run after globalists, it's not going to solve the problem. Not actually. What you need to do is you need to run after the Black House. The Black House the reason why they call that is because they remain invisible. They hide behind so many layers of people that you just can't get to them. Yeah. See, that's the whole point of it, is that regardless of how many people you take down, you will never just get to them. It's almost like, what's that movie called? That guy with the fourth movie that's come out now. John Wick. John Wick is an example of a guy who's looking for the source of the black, like
you know that John Wick, actually the fourth one, is based on what has happened now. They've actually had made this movie specifically for what's happening now here today.
Exactly. Yeah. And I featured that in one of my
videos. I watched the movie. It's like, wow.
Stunning.
Yeah. We haven't watched it yet. Can't wait.
Well, we haven't watched the fourth one. We watched 1, 2, and 3. I featured in like.
But when you see 4, you're gonna go like, holy crap. And
wow, can't wait.
And part of it did show part of the video. I mean, as far as an advertisement, but what it reminded me is there was a TV series where Kane, there was a Kwai Chang Kane. He actually he couldn't go out to the rest of the world. He had to prove his toughness. He had to brand his inner arm, both sides, with the dragon on each side on his arm. So he did that. I remember back in the early 70s on the TV series. This movie here did the same thing. They put a dragon on the inside of the arm by burning his inside arm with the barrel. Same scene, but they use it from that TV series to this one, but it was Russian this time.
Right.
So it's interesting, but they put the dragon on it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the thing about my
Red Dragon.
Red Dragon is a very big theme. I released that, and I did preempt it for a year before. So I prepped everybody a year before.
Yeah.
Told them about it. Said it's coming. You'll see it when it comes. You'll see all of it. And now it's just pushing. But I had to time it just right before Juan O'Savin said it. I think it was like a week or two, and then bang, it all started to come out.
Yeah.
And people started to realize not just dealing with MS-13 or people that have just come out of Mexico or South America, or they started to recognize the fact that it was a global organization that literally was the most dangerous entity to mankind itself. Because if you take the wars, if you take the killing and the murdering and the death, like what I call murder, death, kill, murder, death, kill, murder, death, kill. You take all of that destruction, fentanyl, heroin, crack cocaine, all these street drugs, and of course some of the pharmaceutical drugs have killed more people than in modern day wars, World War I, World War II, because it's in every country and it's rife. So when you take the power, like the real power of that dragon, you have to look at it in terms of illegal street drugs, which are manufactured. They were manufacturing the stuff in Ukraine in all of their underground labs. Not that, yes, you've got the pharmaceutical, legitimate, legal stuff, and then you've got the illegal stuff, and it was just pumping out there, and it gets loaded onto super yachts, goes all over the planet. Super yachts earn very good money. Why do you think people spend $6, $7, $8, $10 million on a super yacht, which costs, why would they do that? I mean, it's not like so these things actually courier this stuff all over the world. And obviously there's other kind of trafficking, but anything that has great value, that has huge amount of value. And the idiots that get caught at the airport, and the guy with the suitcase up full of cocaine and all this crap, that's just PR. Oh, the police caught a guy with 5 kilos of cocaine getting off British Airlines or something. I mean, that's just such a load of tripe. And then also they would use the military. The United States bases were used to courier huge amounts of drugs all over the world and stuff. And because they would land from base to base, they would take off on a base, land in a base, and then of course no one has access to that. There's no shipping clearance or courier clearance there. Nobody's, it's all armed guards and whatnots, and can't go here. This is restricted area, all this kind of nonsense. And of course, it was done like that as well. So that's how the Red Dragon was operating. And then it goes into continents. So powerful is this entity, formed 800 years ago in the world, was established properly for the modern era. With the modern era is from like the turn of the century onwards. So 1901, 1902, all the way through. So you they killed 30, 40 million Chinese to establish in 1949, which is after 1945. So everything comes after 1945, just pre or just after 1945. They established the CCP. The CCP is a front organization. Communism is a front organization for Red Dragon, you see. So they are the power that you don't see. And then, and that actually came out because there's a history of like, gangsterism. There was an uprising against the very sort of, you could say, despotic, what you call them, emperors in China, because so the warlords who serviced the Chinese emperors through all those, 2, 3, 4,000 years. You're going back as far as 2,700 BC. I mean, one of the oldest cultures in the world. Powerful, well-established cultures is the Chinese culture. It's very, very old. It goes thousands of years back, ancient. So there was the emperor, and the emperor had to have his army and everything. And then also what occurred is they used to recruit into the military for the emperor a lot of peasants and people from like the Mongol Empire and all these. So they would scoop up and scrape up other people, and then have them join the emperor's army with the trusted generals and captains and everybody else, and then have these other, these guys, just there for infantry and whatever else. And so the thing, and people that were very good on horses. So like a lot of Mongols got absorbed into the Chinese Empire and sort of neighboring nations. So it was kind of like a bit of a fruit salad of people who weren't particularly for China. They were just earning a living, be able to be fed, clothed, and be able to be in service to the emperor. But then what happened was the warlord would get so, this happened through time, would actually then form a coup against the emperor. And then like the general, it's sort of part of the history, then wanted to take over and sort of, there was a coup against the general with the military and like manipulation and everything. Like a power play with the kind of typical political scenario. Because some of these emperors in China weren't such good people. They were like shitty people, shitty rulers, like very greedy and nasty. And so then that kind of gangsterism, it became gangsterism in the end, because a lot of thieves and people that they would like recruit in the emperor's military And they, of course, would conspire and with it inside the military, and eventually became quite a rotten bunch of things. So
it's like all the different factions of the Red Dragon that were united, broke apart, and started their own gangs.
Yeah, and so eventually it became part of what
mess.
Yeah, a hot mess. That's part of Chinese culture, but it's not really part of Chinese culture. Somebody asked me the other day, and I said, you go back to the era of the Yellow Emperor, who helped to establish the culture of the Chinese, architecture, art, all of the beautiful things that make Chinese, the original, authentic, traditional Chinese, never had this gangsterism involved in it. But because it goes back so far, people think, oh, well, it's part of, part of the culture. It's not part of the culture, because the people that were saying it was part of it were people from other places. They were thieves and murderers and killers and whatever. And that's what the cabal want. They want all of these murderers and killers and thieves. They want those people because they can run drugs through all countries in the world using people like Nigerians, Congolese, Mexicans, people from South America, what's that one president from El Salvador? I mean, you look at the number of gangs, and they've all got the dragon as it's a sign of respect for the authentic, the oldest gang on planet Earth, basically. But I've got some good news. So you just quickly segue into something else to do with those people. I just want to say that there's been a massive shift, which I haven't released the board yet on it. And people aren't aware of it on YouTube or Rumble or whatever, but it has to do with this Red Dragon danger. They're more dangerous than politicians. They're more dangerous than the military. These guys, if they need automatic weapons, they click their fingers, they get everything they want. They are very dangerous and very aggressive. Much more, they will just flatten police. You need the military to confront them. The only way that you can subdue them is if the military pull out their hardcore military weapons and confront them with that kind of equipment. Otherwise, you will just lose.
Or dragon on dragon.
Yeah. You will just lose, because that's part of their lifestyle. Just the whole, having weapons and selling stuff and doing, the whole thing. So, but the good news is that there's been a huge situation shift inside China. And there was a deal that the project managers, this Q movement is also political, plus it's other things, but it's not. It's a much larger project than a single letter, everybody sort of carries on about. But there's a deal that took a year and a half to broker, to like people that were brokering this deal, and they needed people in China. I'm not going to say too much about it, but they needed people to take a deal. And they took the deal. And I did a board a long time ago, long enough ago, where I was dealing with 5 countries. Nancy Pelosi flew to Taiwan, of course. So the people in my group said, go get her, go find out what's happening there. So I went to the Far East, and then I was assisted. It was fantastic. I had all the assistance I needed. And then I checked out the meetings and what was happening there. And I was dealing with Japan, Taiwan, North Korea, China, and Americas. There were 5 countries kind of involved in this little game. This soiree, this political maneuvering and tensions and all this drama. There was stuff that went out in the press. It was all coded. So I was trying to put all the code out and saying, look, there's the code, here's the code, here's the code. And Nancy was the one that was, when a politician speaks, they put the code into the sentences that they use, and then that sentence gets printed to the BBC. It goes up to the City of London, and it gets dispersed all over the place. Then it goes to CNN, NBC, and all that stuff. And it was all in there. But that situation with Taiwan, North Korea, and China, and all that whole thing with Nancy Pelosi, that has changed. And that's all I'm willing to say now, because I know that every now and again you get data harvest, people that data harvest, data mine. And so I can't say what it is, but I'm going to prove it out on a whiteboard, and there's a video with some clips. And although some people can't see it, I can prove it to you in a kind of a three quarters of the way, and then I will tell you that this has happened. I know that it's happened because I was there. It clicked into place, and then you will see that in fact, in the end, it'll work out in our favor. Also has to do with Russia as well, because Russia is involved with China, and it's like, so that's good news. Very good. It's very, very good news, because you're talking about a real danger. I mean, if you think letting off a nuclear warhead, nuclear warhead. So it's very localized. Yes, that is bad. But compared to danger all over the world, there's divisions. You know, you get the mafia in Italy, and you get black acts throughout the continents in Africa. Probably the most very, very dangerous people that will do anything to maintain power and control. It doesn't matter if they die. It doesn't matter if they get taken out. They are literally that embedded, and they drip. It's really like what Trump is complaining about.
Yeah.
Every drug merchant kills an average of 500 people one way or the other. So you can imagine like how powerful that is. And that's inside peaceful nations, like per se, they're not actually at war. In suburbs, down the street, this kind of thing. So that's good news. And there's about 3 or 4 pieces of good news. I'm very, very happy with the way things are going. It's going very, very well. If you considering the casualties, the bank, and I wouldn't worry about, and all that Americans have to do, and it's more America than sort of Canada, that, go buy some, go and take $200,000 or $300,000 and invest some in some gold. If you've got some liquid cash, that's sitting on Wall Street, it's time to just go buy a $50,000 dollars worth of gold, or $100,000 worth of gold, and just put it there. Your liquid money. You don't try and expand anything right now, because we're looking to break even. We're not looking to make a profit. The idea of you've got your property, that's fine. But Charlie Ward goes on and he says 5,000 words about something quite basic. Do what they tell you to do. If you're in the States and they tell you to do this, do it. The truth movement know what they're talking about in general. Just do that.
There's 2 things I want to say. Number one is, I've noticed recently that we have now sightings of real living dragons coming ashore in Japan, and they found a skeleton of a dragon on the north side of Japan, and it was about 25-30 feet long, and it was on the beach. It was all like, it looked shrunk, like it was supposed to be bones, but there was it looks pretty depleted. Then there's a video of little dragons swimming in the water in a stream, and it looks like they're real. And it's not a movie, folks. This is for real. This is actually a real video done by a regular person, and said these are miniature dragons. So I strongly feel that when you're mentioning the word dragon, this, I strongly feel too, is actually there are elements of portals that are opening up now, and the dragons are coming through to give people messages that they're here. Does that make any sense at all?
Well, what I can say is that there are some components to living a life where there is a kind of you get 2 kind of realities that collide with each other, and sometimes you have like what you could call a spiritual side of life, where you have 2 kinds of realities mixing with each other. Like a lot of people, internet might mention one thing that's similar to another, and so sometimes you'll have two kinds of reality that end up mixing with each other that normally wouldn't belong together. So there's a lot of that sort of thing that goes on in a time like this, because the time that we're in, this planet, we've had other things that are similar that have occurred elsewhere. We've experienced other things and seen other things that occurred in a place that was that's very similar to this place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were a human being, you were in a society, and the circumstances were similar to now as they were then. So you have this mixing of reality, almost as though like you feel like it's like you're in two places at once.
Yeah.
You're in a time where you used to be and a time where you are now, but it's so similar. So all I could say there is that I tend to be a little shy on the esoteric side of things, you know, if it's quite esoteric.
Mm-hmm.
But the omens and symbolism and stuff, we are living in a world that is rife with like symbolism and omens and coincidences and the mixing of reality, you know, where one version of reality does mix with another, and it seems like sometimes what is here now, some of it comes from something back then. So it's because it's probably the best answer I can give at this time. The
That's
mixing of two different realities. Both are real, but they're not in the same location in the same instant. And beings don't know what they can do. They, they are they get experience from different locations. So, and sometimes those locations have quite a bit of time between them.
Yeah.
But if the circumstances are almost identical, then there's a mixture. I can just say that. I won't say more than that. I think on that topic, because it's
You mentioned Knights Templar.
Yeah, that goes back to.
Yeah. Do you believe that the Knights Templar are still here?
Oh, absolutely. Nelson Mandela died the other day, and he was a Knights Templar. And I mean, he didn't even go anywhere. People didn't even think he even knew anything about Europe. But that's all out of Switzerland.
Yeah.
So what would a South African indigenous guy be doing wearing the garb of the Queen? The Queen was very proud of her outfit. I mean, if you Google Queen Knights Templar, you see this wonderful, sort of their garb they wear with all their belts and the huge big emblems and all of the attachments. And then you see.
But are the Knights Templar the Freemasons, or are they totally separate?
They actually created the Freemasons. That's actually Freemasonry is a kind of an extension of their front organization, where those people are kind of they've sort of been bullshitted into a like a philosophy, but it's actually quite satanic, because the black checks on the floor, black and white, all this kind of stuff, and then that's a front organization, and the people who were in it or part of it didn't even know that. They thought that it was wisdom based, like it was what do you call that stuff? It was like Gnosticism or something, like sort of Gnostic type of, this is the actual knowledge, the higher knowledge that people have, but it was very involved in symbolism. And when you symbolism, it's like this means that, but it means this, but it means that, and it's all a horseshit.
Yeah.
Where are you? There's no freedom in all the symbolism. And then the buildings had it on, and all this. So we got buildings around here with all these Freemasonry symbols like plastered all over them, as that's some kind of secret.
Well, there's even someone sent me a photograph of a slavery handcuffs, of slavery cuffs, I guess, what do you call them? Chain, like a chain gang, and on the wristbands, it gives you the name of the organization, and also the symbol of the Freemason is on those chains, and that actually had something to do with black slavery. But they actually found the symbol on that chain. Now, would the Freemasons be the ones that are slavers, or were they the sponsors, do you think, of just manufacturing those particular cuffs, so to speak?
Well, what I can tell you is that Freemasonry was a kind of a precursor to being accepted into the into well-to-do society. Yeah. So if you want to be a lawyer, if you wanted to be involved in law, or if you wanted to be a master builder, or if you wanted to, survive and get contracts and be part of the fraternity of anything significant, where you were revered or respected, or it's an old boys club with a checkered floor, and you've got to be you kind of have to go. You had to become one of them. Anywhere in America, it was all over the place. Yeah. You had to become a Freemason in order to become a doctor, or to get your bursary, or to have things. It was all over the place, and it was you had to be part of the club.
Yeah, our parliamentary building in Winnipeg, Manitoba, here in Canada, actually was built by Freemasons. In fact,
absolutely.
There's even a room upstairs, one room upstairs, that not even the Prime Minister of Canada, no politicians even allowed in that one room. That's Freemason room only. No one's even allowed in there. Now they go figure that one, eh?
Yeah, well, you should see here in South Africa, our Parliament building is built on Freemason property right next to the Freemason temple. And they don't hide it.
Guess who's running the country?
Yeah. Yep, there you go.
And it was those Freemasons that rented or leased the ground to the Parliament to build their Parliament, because it belonged to them. It was their land. So they said, you can have a little bit of our land to build Parliament on. It's fine, whatever. I think it was the second Freemason building in the world or something. It's very, very,
it's very, very old.
It's very, very
one
old.
Of the originals. Yeah.
Because the Dutch East India Company came down to South Africa and had to make, because there was no Suez Canal in those days, so it literally had to secure the tip of Africa, and make sure that was a refueling station, and it was a very strategic point in those days to get round to the Indian Ocean. All that they really, really, really needed to make sure they had their roots sort of stuck, sort of put down. But it's sort of very common, and that's why they've done a lot of charity work and everything. It's to confuse everybody. Think, they're actually quite good. No, they're not good. Yes, they are. No, they're not. But now people are beginning to realize that they were a front organization just for the Atlantic Council and the Club of Rome and all these silly, like merry-go-rounds, where they plan the demise of everybody, secretively, whilst they have tea and biscuits, have a tea and biscuit meeting, and to plan the demise.
Biscuit meeting. Biscuit meeting.
It's ridiculous.
Biscuit and tea meeting. Okay, well, that one of those. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, because basically, the fellow who actually, who I was like, I met him in person. This fellow here actually did a documentary on the Freemasons and building of the parliamentary building and all the symbolisms that are inside the parliament. In Winnipeg, and he actually did a video on that on YouTube. If you guys ever get a chance to go on YouTube and see for yourself, his documentary will show you all the symbolisms of the inside of probably almost every parliamentary building around. But also another documentary I watched, one fellow did research, and I just saw it a couple of days ago, and he talked about there's two types of Freemasons. There were the Freemasons, one level, another group of Freemasons, and he said there's the ones that were corrupt and ones that were not before. So there's a that was his sort, according to his own research. But it was interesting how it all turned out the way I was watching his documentary, because he kept on showing the history and how it transitioned. Again, I wonder if it also has to do with this whole situation that we're dealing with right now, these last 3 years, because it's if it's also connected to that as well, regarding our own work, what we're doing here to play catch up.
I can tell you that that's the schedule. The last video I did, it because there is now this confusion as to whether like these other these players that were invested in the whole checkered floor club, basically, because it's essentially like a checkered floor club, kind of the yin and yang of everything. Life will always be a balance of good and evil. It's a whole. That's what it all the aspects of it. You have to have black in order to have white. You have to have good and evil. You have to have God, and you have to have the devil existing together. And it's all that, like the checkered floor club. That used to be, the schedule is 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 to 2030. So the cabal, in my latest video, I tell them there is a schedule that they have to stick to, because they're like a juggernaut of heavily paid, heavily compensated, wealthy, rich, powerful people that are depending on them to succeed. They have to maintain a schedule because there's a lot of things that they have to do. I mean, imagine what their to-do list is every single day around the world globally. They're running the whole planet. They intend on having to control many things. You can have billions of dollars, but there are people out there that are very hungry and they need that money. They need to be paid for, these politicians, all this paper, media, press, people, all have to be invested in one way or another. And those people don't invest anything unless they get their hard cash, their big money. They want their Porsche, they want their big house, they want their Persian carpets, their lifestyle, their petrol cards, their Armani suits. They want respect. And that's the deal that they've made. They want to live well. They want to drink 15-year-old whiskey and smoke cigars. And that's what they want. So they need their money. So the problem is that it's starting to already break down, and it is. Because you can feel that that to be part of the Checkered Floor Club is an old thing. That was useful 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That was useful 50 years ago. But now, after 2008, everything changed. Because it's like the cabal pulled their money out of all these massive investments. They pulled back their money. They got the bailout. They got like $3 trillion. The Fed took on their debt. They pulled their money out. So that was a kind of a manufactured thing. There was a property bubble. No, somebody had to throw more money back into the bank. So the Fed said, fine, we'll take the knock. We'll take on that $3 trillion that you've sort of just lost somehow. And then they gave it to them and said, don't worry, here we go, just keep going. And then in 2001, 9/11 came, and it cost how much money now? Like how much money was lost from that? And then it was about another $2.5 trillion, because that was what was missing. Remember, even in the dark budget of the military, that chappie, whatever his name was had to, where's the $2 trillion that are missing from, like, what did you spend it on? So then they dropped the towers. Obviously, they had to coordinate, control all of it. I think it was Dick Cheney that was part of the $2 trillion that went missing. Then I didn't have to explain that. The Fed said, "Don't worry, we'll absorb it. We'll hide it." So the Fed have been taking on all this debt, more debt. So these guys with the checkered floor gang, that's old stuff. That was used to establish societies around the world for the last 250 years or whatever. That's from 17 whatnot, Footsec, all long gone. My grandfather, my great grandfather, that's old stuff. So that whole kind of religion, that whole philosophy of super knowledge and all this crap, it's over. You can see that the only use it has was to force people to join them if they wanted to be part of civil society. But now the cabal doesn't need them anymore. The Black House doesn't need them anymore. They can throw them. They can just. It's not of any value any longer, because in the last few years we've got 4 years left. 6 years left. Sorry, 2024, 2025, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So it's like 6 or 7 years left. We've come from 2016, and now we're at 2024. And then but by the time we get to 2030, the Black House will will have a speed wall and actually crash because it can't. It's going too fast. It can't
pushing too hard.
There's too much trouble that we've made. That I said that earlier. We've made so much trouble.
We're recalcitrant bastards.
Yeah, we are.
We are. Are we?
We are the spanner in this giant machine that it needs to keep control of, and it knows. It's always known that by 2030 they can't clamp down. That's why all they can sell you now with all this debt is you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy.
Yeah, in 15-minute cities and this and that. Just go digital with all your money and
go digital. You won't own anything, but don't panic. We'll take care of you.
Digital ID. Yeah.
That's all they've got left to sell is nothing. Is that you'll have nothing.
Yeah, because there are really, I don't think 50. Well, actually, our mayor of Surrey right now here in BC they've already prepped the 15-minute city here in this area in British Columbia. Edmonton has already started their 15-minute city. The UK and England has already done they've already began their 15-minute city, where people right now are actually protesting the streets right now as we speak, because now they're not allowed to visit each other, and now they're getting charged. They're actually getting fines for traveling too far from doing their carbon footprint. And like I tell people, if you're going to do a 15-minute city, they're going to carbon footprint you right to the point you hit as you sit on the toilet. They want to know how many times you flush it.
Yeah,
because your carbon footprint's going down the toilet.
They want a still sample on top of that, because they want you to make sure that your watch, your smartwatch, knows everything.
And I just finished watching a movie called Magdalorian, which is a season 3, and I remember it was actually the chapter 4 or 5. I think it's 4.
Yes.
Where the robot said to the man who was actually in the smart city, it was a smart city, and the robot came and sat down with him. He says, "How are you feeling? Are you angry with someone? Are you this? Are you that?" And he had to answer them. Are you this? Are you that? And he has to answer like no. And if he says yes or a certain question, then what they do is they take him to this lab and they mess with his head to tell him not to be unhappy, or they drug him. Okay. So Magdalorian, the movie, the TV series, is trying to tell you that was to prepare you. This is what's going to happen, folks.
Yes, I think the digital currency will go into effect, but how many members, how many people will adopt it?
Yeah,
I think it will. They'll have their own. They will, convince people that this is the best form of survival. I kind of seeing that they because it's like a beta version. A testing phase to try and get people involved and do the PR and saying these guys are already in. There's so many benefits. They sell it to you, and that's what the World Economic Forum is doing. Its sole job is to convince people that society needs to be re-engineered by economists and clever engineers like Klaus Schwab is an engineer and he's an economist. He's got a degree in both of those fields, so he's kind of we have to re-engineer.
It's called psychological engineer, folks, not just engineer. Psychological engineer.
Yeah.
They are trying to mess with your brain to make you feel weak, that you can't survive, that you depend on the government to take care of you, and that's what we have to learn, folks. Like even what Rob would say, don't depend on the government to babysit you. You have to learn to take care of yourself. Or have family, friends with you and support each other, but don't try to think, or don't allow these guys to make yourself believe that they're helping you. They're not helping you worth crap. They're taking money from you so they can own you. You are a slave to them. Right?
Yes, I would suggest that, and I said it like a long time ago, like 2 years ago, but form a survival group. Have like choose your friends wisely, like we do, and then. But try and position yourself in a community that's where you guys share and help each other, to kind of, get through. You don't want to be in a neighborhood where it's impersonal and people don't talk to each other and they don't, ever cross that boundary and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of like a kibbutz atmosphere, sort of what a kibbutz could be, is really the people next to you where you share and help each other to get through, and you kind of, the closer you are, the better you'll survive. So people need like a coffee club where you can talk to each other. Just make friendships and with a group that is on your wave, that's actually surfing on your wave. You need that, yeah. And you need friends with skills. So your friend who's a mechanic, then he's your friend because he can fix your car and you can help him with something else. You know, you can babysit his kids whilst he, you know, fixes this or does that. There's these exchanges that go on. They don't have to be financial, but they are they're valuable nonetheless. That's something that's quite necessary over the next 3 years. We're going to be fighting this all the way to 2030. It's you know, if you take, we'll be winning, but when you defeat the globalist stuff in America, you've got to get to Europe to get to them. So America's got a bit of, you know, okay, we're going to patch and fix up. Yeah, you still got to get to Europe, and you got to catch them over there, and that's tough. That's on their turf. So just remember that the only thing that America is going to be doing now, and obviously, like, you know, also Canada will be like a benefactor of that action, is that you are removing the foreign interference from across the ocean, across the pond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we've got to dismantle the Commonwealth, but right now, that's the MI6 stuff, because the CIA is like, you know, MI6's bitch. If you really want, yeah, that they always said that. CIA is MI6's bitch. MI6 basically is the long project management arm of controlling nations globally. They are the really bright oaks. The CIA are the idiots that start wars. You know, they put the disguises on. They send them into countries to flip governments. Well, that's MI6's bitch. MI6 tells them what to do, and they don't want to be seen. The men with the bowler hats, they don't want to be seen. You know, just, you know, they'll sit with their nice suits on. They don't get their hands dirty. That kind of, people like George Soros. Mm-hmm. You know, he doesn't get his hands dirty. He's you know, you guys, you little CIA scum, you guys must go do this for me and that and everything else. Yeah, CIA was like, yeah, you know, we're the CIA. Yeah, I'll show you what, and you'll do what we tell you to do. So, I mean, that's the sort of arrangement of how it actually works. And then there was one thing I wanted to mention that I did omit, and that is that thick wad of paperwork, going back to that 1947. Mm-hmm. In that paperwork was information about the generation. There was generational information in there about the original source of the Black House power control. These people. Who are they? Who are they really? They're not royalty or anything, you know. Not that. That was put there by them. They're not per se, like, you know, cannibalists. That was put there by them. They're not Satanists. That's the cover. So their flock, the church of, you could say, like Satanism or whatever, is a cover. Mm-hmm. They get everybody involved in that, because that's what it takes to control, to take over a planet. It takes Satanism to be used as a weapon. So they get all of the people that are doing everything for them to get in, because it suits their purposes and intentions and everything. But that's just a front for the guys at the top, you know, exactly what they're doing. You know, the people that are project managing it, planning and everything, and doing everything. And those people are the descendants, the long, far descendants of the original people that came to this planet, that were installed here as the guards of the prison. Okay, the prison guards themselves, actually, the actual, and they were what is it? What do you call? Like, you know, people talk about people's DNA, and everyone goes about DNA this and DNA that, and it's just a huge amount of DNA. But they were, like, in a physiologically superior, because they were installed here to run the place. They did not own the place. They ran the place. Like, if you go to some prison in America and you see the prison guards, those are the people. There's not very many of them. Lots and lots and lots of prisoners, and very, very, very few guards that are well coordinated. So they're the long lost descendants of these beings that came here in order to set up this prison planet. And if no one believes what I'm saying, just look around you. You kind of know that there's something funny going on here that's very like weird and strange. There's a lot of weird and strange things in the world. So that weirdness and strangeness is because we sort of smell a rat, but you can't tell where it is or what it's, weird stuff, strange things, odd things. Then you can see that it's, so that was also in that paperwork. Something that.
Yeah, it's like they know a lot more about us than we know about ourselves, that we're allowed to know about ourselves. And they keep it that way because they got all the paperwork on us. They know exactly how to control us because that's their job. That's what they were put here to do. Well, they're also stuck in the prison currently, but they're still doing their job.
So what happened was the people that set up this facility, let's just say they're not here any longer, the landlords, people that created it, built it. This place is built to be a prison. It's not just only just
the infrastructure,
a typical garden planet or something with nature on it and whatever, and then you just run around here. There was a lot of effort that went into sort of making this place as infallible as possible. And then you've got all of these societies all over the world. Where do they come from? Where do all these people come from? What are they doing here? There's no purpose to being here. What is the point of this place? Nobody knows. Why are you here? Nobody knows. Who are you? Nobody knows. What's the plan in the future? Nobody knows. You see that? It's very strange.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in the past? Nobody knows. How did we get here? Nobody knows. Don't know. The whole thing is shrouded in big, chunky pieces of not knowingness. Which can be upsetting because everyone's like, well, something's going on here. I mean, are you with him? Are they with them? And then you have people conquering each other all the time. Long back in the past, and this guy wants to control this group, and that guy's after that group, and this guy invades this place, and that other guy goes over here. So all these weird urges on this planet, and there's all these societies, and some of them have like long, silky hair, and some of them have like spears and shields and stuff in Africa. And then you've got Bushmen running around in the bush. And then you've got Arabs running on horses with like turbans and everything and like, curved swords. And then you've got the Eskimos that are camping up there in the ice and they seem to be happy there. And then you've got the Ukrainians and the Bulgarians that are completely different, and they're gobbling down this and doing that. They're dressed like this. And you've got the Turkish people jumping up and down. Then you've got the Jews with their curly heavy religious, very sort of religious type of clothing and all these different people. And then you've got the people.
And why are they all different?
The evangelists that are raving and sweating on stage. So you have all these different societies around the world that are vastly, vastly different from each other. Isn't that strange? It's so weird. It's like just this fruit salad, this vaudeville of like weirdness. It doesn't really make any sense at all.
No. Okay, one final question for this night. April the 1st, April 1. Okay, everyone's making a big deal about April 1st. What do you think that means to you for April 1st, 2023?
Oh, April 1st.
Well, it's today here for us right now, I think. Let me just check.
I think it could be going to. There was
tomorrow.
Something that you said to me the other day, didn't you, Derek? It was to do with
Mine was April 10th.
Yes, but remember, I told you what it was. I told you what it was. I said that'll be sorted out by then. What was it?
Oh, I was saying April 1st, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's.
Oh, yeah.
And then someone said, Happy New Year. Actually, if you take, apparently as some other reason, I wasn't sure that was about. But someone said, well, New Year's is supposed to be like a New Year's. It's supposed to be April the 1st originally, according to the other calendar, so to speak. We're supposed to go back 13 days. So I'm going like, okay. But I just want to find out from your thoughts, because I remember 107 mentioned something about the April the 1st.
All I can give you...
And I got a miss on that.
Yeah.
Like we all know it's supposed to be, April 1st, supposed to be,
yes.
April Fool's Day, so to speak. But
are you asking about April the 20th, March, April?
April the 1st.
The 1st. Well, I have no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know if there'll be anything. I mean, there might be. Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything that's going to occur. Like that's going to be huge and spectacular. I don't think there's anything major there.
I know mine. I know, as far as mine's concerned, April the 10th. I remember saying what I had seen back in 2003 when the Spirit says to me, April the 10th, 2023, there's going to be waters are going to rise. I remember them telling me that.
Oh, right. Yes. That's the Arizona stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to get sorted out.
Yeah.
And see, that they're actually quite sneaky because things actually do occur. Good things happen. You get good news. That's very, very good news as well. Like people those are markers. Those are definite markers. So the Arizona voting thing, I think by the 20th of April, it's not quite 10.
It's the Kerry Lake thing. Lake being watered.
Yeah. The 20th of April.
Yeah.
That's when it's like the situation's going to become vindicated. It's like good news that's going to leak out, and we're going to realize that we've actually got this Arizona trouble, all this bullshit and crap that's gone on there, and people have suffered over it, and this attrition, now it's there's definitely going to be something in, because that's kind of like the heart of the complaint. Because Georgia is very dangerous. The state of Georgia is very hectic. They're still trying to really viciously grab, like a sort of gnashing teeth Georgia state. But Arizona is going to end up. I feel like it's going to leak out that it's something to do with the courts, and but it's going to be acknowledged in the press, and a person's going to say this is what's already happened, and so that signature flipping Supreme Court, blah 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 blah. You know the picture, the news in the news. So that's what I feel by April, because the budget's coming up. I told everybody watch the budget, and some guys on House of Mercury have been watching it. Watch that budget, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever, that budget for the American Parliament or the House or whatever it is, the political money that they call it the budget or something, and they have to vote. That's very, very, very important. It's very, 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 very important, because that's the big $1 billion budget that pays for the deep state. And that's where the rubber starts to hit the road. That's the fuel that pays the senior executive service and all these shadow people that are embedded. They get their money from that budget, their salaries and everything else. So they've got to cut them off. They've got to cut that off. They've got to vote against paying Billy and Joe and John and all these, kind of shadow people that are sort of, that's the big deal. And that I don't even know when that voting occurs. Like I'll actually have to research, when does it come, when is it supposed to occur? Because then I'm going to watch with a lot of attention. Everything's falling in our favor.
Yes.
There's so many things that in the last 2 months last month, even March, that have fallen in our favor. Phenomenal stuff, especially from the east, from the Far East. Like I said, that's very, very important. So I'm happy. We will meet our targets. So the ball's rolling in our favor now, but it wasn't before. Not fast, but it's rolling in our favor, and they're on the defense now. So
I really want to thank you guys for coming on, both of you, folks that actually have been watching this program. This is Rob Mercury and his wife Mixx, and he actually, like I said before, he's a remote viewer. He's given us some really great incentives, and those are actually thinking in their chat room. If you feel confused, don't feel confused. We'll explain all that to you later on. Some people say, I am confused. So it's going to take a while for you guys to have an understanding that certain things have to play its role in a time, but things will get better. Just not to worry. I think what happens is some people are actually afraid that they can't go anywhere or that they had to stay at home. That's not what they want you to do. Like we don't want you to stay at home forever and just stay plant in your house and you can't come out. You actually just live your life like you always do. Don't let anybody stop you from enjoying your life. That's one thing that we've been brain trained since the beginning when the big C happened and were being taught to lock themselves up for the whole year. And now when they decide to bring the 15-minute city in, they think, okay, well, now we trained you this way. You think you're going to drop in and do it again. No, ain't going to happen, folks. Not going to hide. Okay. That's the training course. That's what they're trying to do to all of us. So,
and use social media to meet people that live in the city and the town or the neighborhood that you do. Yeah. Like meet people, talk to them, find out, you're going to have to be a little bit more pushy about meeting good quality people, high quality. We should do something about survival next time we actually do a little radio show, because people need to know how to survive.
Exactly.
Because they're kind of so used to, and now these 15-minute things, this restriction is now like another lockdown, but in a different way.
Yes.
See.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So if anybody wants, if any of you guys out there want to get a hold of Rob and Mixx and have a chat with them, or if you want to find them, their pages are on Rumble. There's some of their recorded videos on Rumble. Keep up with their programs. You got some really great shows. He actually gives you a lot of great incentives. Also, he can find him on Telegram. He's got 4 pages on Telegram, so there's no way you can't get lost. Where is Rob? How I can find this guy? No problem. You'll find him. If you want to reach out to him, you can always ask me, and if you want to get his email address, he's willing to chat with you if you need to. Sure. Again, first time listener and viewer, guys, get to know Rob and Mixx. You have a really great idea. You can feel more comfortable with yourself. You're not alone here. Like I tell people here, you guys aren't alone. Don't stay alone. Be around people like us. Our job is to give you guys incentive and give you guys a lot of faith and hope that things are going to be happening quite well for all of us. God's on our side. We've been doing this for a long, long time. Okay. So, and Rob and I, we've been staying in touch with each other for a lot of times. And I thought, I got to get Rob back on this program because it's been like 9 months.
Okay, it's too long,
but again, Rob's been so busy. That's how busy he's been. How can you tie down a remote viewer when he's in trance?
Yeah, no. Well, it was also quite difficult because I'm talking to a tiny little matchbox, and I can only see myself. I can't see Derek, so I had to see on my other laptop. So it's been quite difficult, sort of technically. Where I'm used to, having this sort of seeing both things.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been easy, but at least we were able to make it go right for this show and stuff. And it's I love coming on Derek's show. Thank you so much for putting this effort to chat to us, and hopefully people got something out of it. Next time, if they have some serious questions, they can just write them down and then pot them through and tell Derek. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you guys for coming on. Hang on tight. We're just gonna go off with a song, and then we'll have a chat with you in a few minutes. Guys, be good to each other, and may God be with you all. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Be careful. Have fun out there. Don't worry about the word be careful. Don't hide. Get out there and have fun. We'll talk to you guys. And this weekend, I'm going to be at the powwow selling my wares. So I'm at the Earl Merritt Secondary School here out in White Rock. Come down. I'm there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Talk to you guys then.
Cool.
Everyone lived, everyone died. Everyone loved, everyone cried. Round the world we're all alike. So why is there war? Why do we fight? There's one sea, one tide, one earth. So you and I gotta learn to live together. With one hurt, with one needs, we all we gotta learn to live together. Peace, make peace, make peace, peace all around. it time, brother, stop dying? Isn't it time, mother, stop crying? Stop the fighting and the hate. We gotta make peace before it's too late. There's one sea, one sky, one earth. So you and I gotta learn to live together. With one heart, with one beat, we all feel, all we gotta learn to live together.